Looks like we got everybody here. I just want to say what's up. Hello to everybody. And we have returned for another exciting Metallicus and Friends, where we bring our friends from the industry right to the palm of your hand here on the Twitter Spaces and also on our YouTube program later on. My name is Eric Lyons, and I have the absolute pleasure to introduce you all to the CEO and co-founder of Metallicus, Marshall Hayner, also the chief financial officer and board member Irina Berkon, and we all get to have the exciting conversation with Eleanor Terrett, the crypto journalist from Fox Business. You may remember her. She was on Metallicus Live last month, and you can find that on all of our podcasting platforms available, where you can have an exciting conversation that we've had for over an hour getting to know Eleanor. But we have her back, and we have her with the team. And everybody, thank you all so much for hopping on. How are you all doing today?
Hey. Thanks, Eric. Doing great.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks
Hi,
for having me back.
Welcome, Eleanor. Yeah, it's great to have you.
Thank you. I can't believe it's been a month since I was on with you guys last. It feels like, just yesterday.
That literally feels like a few days ago. It's crazy.
It's crypto time.
I know. I guess there's no dull days in crypto, right? So time flies.
Yeah, it's this space is just too boring for me. Sometimes I'm dying from the boredom, Not enough things happening.
Yes. I know, right?
Yeah, it's been a wild past couple of months, We last year, I think everyone in crypto last year thought it can't possibly get any crazier right around November, right? Like it couldn't get any crazier than this, could it? And I feel like we're setting up to see, absolutely the craziest period of time that we've ever had in, 15 or, 14 years and going on 15 years in crypto, because we've seen explosions like Mt. Gox, we've seen exchanges change hands, but we've never seen kind of the mass adoption of crypto and what that might look like. And what we're seeing now on the regulatory front and kind of, big banks coming in is just that, right? The American public has spoken. They want this. If it didn't have all this traction, you wouldn't have the White House talking about it. You wouldn't have, influencers and journalists talking about it. And, here we are. And I think it's going to be a big inflection point this year for crypto.
Yes, no, I agree with you. And I think just what you said, basically crypto's kind of getting that validity right now that it's kind of being talked about in government. It's definitely a hot topic. It's going to be a hot topic in the 2024 election. I think just giving it that, credence that it, might not have had about 5 or 6 years ago necessarily. It's kind of bringing it to the forefront. And so, yeah, for sure. It's a good thing for the space. It's getting, it's very to the forefront. And I think we're going to see more of that, like you said. But it's good. I mean, whether it's not the best news that we hear all the time with the regulatory stuff, but, as long as it's in the conversation, I think that it's a good thing for sure.
This morning when I saw the announcement from Treasury about the risks to DeFi with money laundering, I kind of, people are going to get mad if I say this, I kind of giggled a little bit because I was like, that's exactly what we prepared for, right? At Metallicus, we put digital identity into the DeFi. We looked at it right away and we're like, when we were building it, DeFi is the future, the centralized world, the centralized exchange world. If we got into crypto to build more decentralized systems, why are we recreating the old problems? And then after over a decade, we keep saying, whoops, that exchange blew up or that lending platform blew up when we have the solutions. But then the obvious thing was that, if I'm borrowing on a DeFi platform, I can't borrow or lend to North Korea, right? Or a sanctioned individual. So but then we can have that tech. We can have the decentralized identity tech. So Metallicus, I think a few years ago when we started down this path, people were kind of poo-pooing us and saying, oh, that's not what crypto is about. It's all about anonymity. And me being a long-time crypto guy for over a decade, I can say that's not where it started at all. It was all about self-sovereignty and ownership of funds and that you can be your own bank. You've probably heard that statement before. That was where Bitcoin and crypto started with the kind of the libertarian movement, cypherpunk movement, but it wasn't actually about anonymity and things like that. And I think that that's really, as we're seeing the rise of like FedNow, faster payments and things like that, it's great because it creates competition And then in the crypto space, there's no reason why we can't do all the same controls, anti-money laundering, and do it even better than we did it before with the banking world.
Right. And I was going to say that, right? So, I mean, in the report, you saw them say the DeFi space caters to cyber criminals, thieves, scammers, and ransomware attackers. But, the same could be said for any technology, right? They can all use the internet as well. But are they trying to regulate the internet out of existence? No. So
I think it's easier for them
that,
to use traditional banks, because when they move, when the cyber criminals are moving money from one bank to the next, it's very difficult to stop them because there is no transparency like that between banks. So you have one bank calling the next bank, and by the time bank A calls bank Z, that money's off to Russia. That money's off to some part of the world where it's not going to get clawed back or whatever. So crypto.
Well, there's also a human element to it. A banker can make a decision on a certain transaction, while the protocol will always make the decision that's built into the protocol. And do you want to trust the human? And humans can be influenced while protocols cannot.
Right.
I think that's what a lot of people don't understand. And yeah, you can use both of these systems to do bad things, but one of them is actually programmed and the other one has a human element.
And
which one do you trust?
Yeah. And I feel like it's not really hitting home with the government, right? Everybody in government right now seems to think that, crypto is bad. It's used for money laundering. It's just used by bad actors. But at the end of the day, and then they say, well, it's untraceable, right? Like we can't, money laundering, but with the banks, it's untraceable. With crypto, it's not. You actually have a trail of, you have a money trail, and you can see what's going on. So I think that hasn't really hit home yet. I feel like people are still they have this idea that crypto is this digital anomaly that we can't figure out, but actually, it's very clear.
Yeah, it's interesting because in every in every scenario, crypto and blockchain has really been a truth litmus test, right? When you look at what governments in the world are banning crypto, right? If a government is banning crypto, let's see, who do we have? We've got Russia, China, Nigeria, basically all the most corrupt nations, right, that have issues with totalitarianism and free. There's furthest thing from free speech, right? And so I look at crypto being received positively by the government, or at least in a way that's accepted that this is part of the internet, as more of the free world, and then the countries that are banning it, the opposite. And same thing with even in the industry, these players who did the CeFi lending that exploded, it just became obvious over time because all that information was on chain. Researchers could say, hey, BlockFi is insolvent or FTX is insolvent. We can see that on chain. Unfortunately, we didn't have that luxury in pre-2008 in the banking world, right? No one really knew it until it was too late, until it was the bank stocks are tanking or other things like that. So I think that crypto is just this incredible, super powerful tool that can be used for great good or great evil. But at the end of the day, it also exposes corruption, transparency, and for those players that tried to play pretend banking with crypto and then crashed and burned, there's a solution, DeFi, collateralized lending, and responsible innovation. But we didn't have to create all these crazy systems that just are replicating the old system. The new system is definitely decentralized, definitely DeFi, and surprise, we can have identity and we can have compliance better than we ever had it before with the traditional finance world.
Yeah, and you make a great point as well. The countries that are banning crypto, the Chinas, the North Koreas, the Russias, they're the ones who, don't necessarily have this democratic freedom that we have in the US, right? They're more, dictatorships. They're more, it's a lot different than it is in the US. They're the ones banning it. Do the US really want to follow that path? Do they want to, go down the path of the Russias and the Chinas and not have this technology available to its people? It's a democratic technology, as you just said. So I think you make a great point there. It's kind of a dangerous path that we're kind of going down at this point. I feel like with the regulatory stuff, because with all these bans, all these law enforcement actions, it's gonna really force people to go offshore. I think we talked about that last time I was on. People are already they're making their moves to banks overseas, setting up jurisdictions elsewhere. It's really sad to see, but I think it's a shame, right? Because we don't necessarily want to be like those competitors that we have overseas that aren't, democracy friendly. It's a bit scary to see, I think.
I think it's time for America to have its kind of Boston Tea Party in 2023. It's time to dump the tea in the harbor, because we need to, and what I mean by that is we need to, if you really like crypto, it's time to write your elected representatives. It's time to self-custody your own crypto. It's time to really speak up and to get active and get involved. And I think that's where we need to be right now. We need to really, as Americans, say, this is what we want. This is the direction that we're going. And, we live in a democracy that I think the government recognizes that there is some value in crypto, but unfortunately under this administration, I think they have really viewed it as a threat to the dollar or to banking, when it actually can be this incredible renaissance for technology in the United States. It makes sense that it would happen in Silicon Valley and that we would get, traction here in California, and that's, what's happening. But I think it's time that we definitely as Americans, put our foot down and say enough is enough. We'll tolerate CBDC, but we're not going to tolerate being forced into what we can buy and sell, especially when it comes to Bitcoin, especially crypto. People should have that freedom of choice. And I think it's time also that we start to get forward-thinking regulations so we can grow industry here in the United States. Because if we lose this, I predict that the United States would be, if we are, the kings of software and we're losing blockchain and crypto in the future, that's going to be a significant portion of web technology. Call it 20-30% of web technology is going to be based around blockchain in the future. And we lose that, then we lose Silicon Valley, basically.
Right. And I think Coinbase and the Digital Currency Traders Alliance, they're both doing the initiatives where they're helping people reach out to their members of Congress to say, hey, this is technology we use. We want it to stay. How do we get this through, Congress? How do we make some comprehensive laws? How do we reverse the SEC's kind of attitude towards this? So I think it's it's down to the people for sure. The election in 2024, like I said, that's going to be it'll be pretty telling. I think Coinbase did come out and say they were backing crypto-friendly candidates. So that'll be interesting. I feel like, that every election has its kind of, theme. And I feel like crypto is going to be a big one in 2024.
I think it's also going to show who is educated about which part of crypto, because, you can say the word crypto and blockchain and a lot of different definitions come out. And even if somebody has, hesitations towards the use of crypto or blockchain, if they can come out with an educated reason or an educated way, to relay that, I think that's also going to be important.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like some lawmakers are kind of just hopping on the bandwagon. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly. That's exactly what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Crypto's bad. Okay. Crypto's bad. Why? Well, I don't even know what it is. Right.
Exactly.
There are some aspects that can be argued either direction. And if somebody has a very good argument that they've researched, I think that's going to come forward more than just people saying it's bad.
Exactly. Or people saying it's good without really kind of knowing too much about it. Like there's some who I feel might be, they see all this stuff on Twitter, like, oh, there's like the crypto Twitter space and all these people, will vote for me if I'm crypto friendly. But we really need the people who are, understanding of crypto, the blockchain and all the technology that comes with it as well. And I think you make a great point that it will come out, we'll see who's kind of in the know.
But what's funny, that kind of reminds me, there were a couple of politicians or candidates who were running for different things. They had reached out and started tweeting, I love blockchain, I love crypto, and then they would reach out to us and say, hey, I said I love blockchain, can you donate to my campaign? And then we would, we didn't really engage with any of them, but I remember there was one that kept like talking about it, and we said, I don't think she really knows what that is. I think she just wants like the buzzwords of crypto, and hopefully, and then she said, oh, so-and-so blockchain set up a wallet for me, so now you can send me donations here. And we're like, do you even know how to cash them in? Like, so there's,
we want to see action before, focus on donations, right? Like we want to see, who are the politicians that are out there that deserve these donations because they're actively, authoring bills or sponsoring bills, or, speaking out publicly about it. And like I look at Senator Toomey, I look at Lummis, I look at Emmer, and like, wow, they're doing such great work, in Congress and the Senate, and pushing things forward, pro Bitcoin, pro blockchain. And realistically, we need more. We need more of that and less like talk. And sadly, I think that in the U.S. under this administration, it's moving towards this very anti-crypto rhetoric, like what you saw with Elizabeth Warren. And I think it's just completely wrong. It's like 1997 and saying we need to get all these tech companies out of the United States before they create this internet thing. It's going to be very bad for our economy. And then, flash forward 20 years, it's like, it's a substantial portion of our economy, right? So I think that if you ignore, and the thing about Bitcoin, blockchain, crypto in general is it's Pandora's box. You can't close the box. You can't say, oh, well, let's just ban it, because then in that case, it's the same thing as China. You're going to have to firewall the internet. And then at that point, you're really deciding what people have access to, what they see and read, and it becomes very, very scary.
Yeah. I just wonder what it's going to take. Like, is it going to take the 2024 election? Are we going to see some kind of regulation, not regulation, some kind of like framework for, like a law regulation, you know what I'm saying, regulation. Like, is that going to happen in 2024, or are we going to wait till 2025? Like, there has to be some kind of framework. And I just wonder how long that's going to take. And I feel like FTX really, and Sam Bankman-Fried really just kind of put a stopper in that, because, there were all these bills, right? Like the Senate was coming up with something last year. The House, they had their own crypto related bills and they were looking to pass laws, but then SBF happened and it kind of just chilled. So I wonder, how long it really is going to take. And like you said, it's going to be a substantial part of the economy. One day I see probably like 20 years from now, it's going to be, booming, but how long are we going to wait? Can we afford to wait that long?
I have a prediction around this. I know everyone loves my predictions. As a kid, how do we learn, when you were a kid, how did you learn that the stove was hot or not to touch the electrical outlet? Hopefully, mom or dad's, explained it and then you didn't do it. But a lot of kids are going to touch the stove, right? They're going to get a little burn. And then you go, oh man. And so as humans, there's nothing like negative reinforcement to ensure that you don't do something again. Unfortunately, sometimes you have to get burned. And so in crypto, I think that I frequently call it like sports teams. Different blockchains are like different sports teams. And you may have, the Red Sox and New York Yankees, where you have, maybe Bitcoin and Ethereum, the maximalists are at each other's throats, But what it's going to take is a really big bad event where, like, let's say theoretically, an exchange that's 90% of all the spot markets does a lot of bad things, a lot of not good, not compliant things, and then explodes in an epic fashion, and it hurts everyone, just like FTX, right? But imagine bigger, right? And like an event that is bigger than FTX, where people really get burned, enough for these sports teams to come together and say, you know what, we're all in the MLB here. We're all playing baseball here. We should be pro baseball. We shouldn't be fighting. Like we may be different teams, but we want our right to play ball, and we want our right for the spectators. We want our right for everyone to be a part of this if they want to be. And I think it's going to take a big event, hypothetically, like a really large exchange exploding, and everybody gets burned by it and says, you know what, that's it. We need to come together. We need to lobby for the right bill. What I learned about bills too, in crypto bills, I guess, or I didn't know much about how a bill is written a few years ago, or how it gets to Congress, and how it gets voted on. It's very political, and what you would think is supposed to be, ethically or morally right is not really like what lands, to be voted in Washington. Unfortunately, there's all of these strange bedfellows, as they call them, and different kind of backdoor deals that have a bill arriving with what they call pork in it, which are like extra added things, which are backdoor deals to get this bill, onto the main stage. And so what I've seen is all of the crypto bills have actually been very one-sided or lopsided towards the people that are sponsoring them, the interests that's sponsoring them. I put a bill together in 2020 and got it sponsored, called the Cryptocurrency Act 2020. And it was a great bill. It was very short. What I think sucks about some of these bills is like a 70-page bill. And it's clear that even the representatives are probably not even reading through the whole thing, right? And that was like SBF's bill, right? Which was going to kind of like really neuter DeFi and pump up his FTX exchange. And, Token Taxonomy Act and some of these other bills, that's like a pro-Ripple bill or whatever. When I went to go do the Cryptocurrency Act 2020, I had, Ripple, Facebook, other lobbyists saying, put this in, do this, do that. And I thought, well, that doesn't make any sense because it doesn't actually make any sense. So I think the problem we have here is that we're all at each other's throats. There's different teams. Everybody has these political interests. And if we could just, as an industry, agree on some basic principles of primary regulators and legal definitions on a very simple bill, that's what's going to help us all. If we try to push through a bill that helps one specific company, it's going to be very, very bad. And that, unfortunately, that's all I'm seeing are bills that are trying to help specific companies. And so, once we get burned really bad, like a large industry player explodes and hurts the liquidity of spot markets and hurts our reputation so badly that we say, okay, enough is enough. We have to get together. And I'm seeing the very beginning of this with like Coinbase had already been telling, its users to write their representatives. But I think that you're going to see more crypto companies, exchanges, blockchains, Web3 teams, whatever it is around the space coming together and starting to push for at least something basic, but it's going to take all of us getting burned together, sadly. And I've been warning about this for years, but we're finally here and we're going to get burned. And once we get burned, then everyone will say, oh, you know what? Maybe we should come together.
So you think there's going to be something worse than FTX and Terra Luna? That's a scary thought, Marshall.
Well, probably about 20 times worse, I would say.
Oh, great. Well, yeah, like you said.
It's coming.
Yeah. You learn from the bad things, right, in life. You make changes and you learn from the bad things. So I guess, yes, that.
Well, I mean, I think some people don't learn. I mean, I always go back to this, who invested in FTX and what kind of due diligence did they do? And those people haven't learned. I'm seeing deals being, negotiated and done on exactly the same level of due diligence that was done for FTX on FTX.
And you had big names doing that too. You had the Kevin O'Learys of the world and the Anthony Scaramucci's. They were all,
Sequoia.
By this guy. Yeah, Sequoia. Some of the biggest names in the industry were, didn't do their due diligence. And that's kind of mind-blowing.
Well, there is also smaller ones that keep saying it's okay, Sequoia did the due diligence. So there are deals that I'm seeing happening right now that the funds are literally using the same excuse. And maybe
it's
those
take
are fine,
the venture,
but yeah,
it's going to take the venture space cleaning up as well, right? Like, the venture space for crypto from like 2017 onwards was really not. I don't think was really supporting the space like it should have been. It was focused on what I would call short-term cash grab, different things like this. And this is why you have like the Telegram ICO being restricted and different things like that. The emphasis was on all the wrong things. Over the past couple of years, who should have been getting like a lot of funding and focus is like the digital identity startups doing digital identity, startups doing, non-custodial wallets and technology around that. But instead, we went the opposite way because, unfortunately, a lot of these founders that are now, exploded and so forth, they lied. They just blatantly lied, right? They conflated DeFi with CeFi. You have Mashinsky saying, unbank yourself, and this is DeFi. Okay, it's not DeFi. It's CeFi. There's a guy behind this thing making all decisions and making all the wrong decisions, and then tricking people between the nomenclature of DeFi and CeFi. And then you have, a venture capital that, once a snowball gets going, it's like, well, we believe these lies now because these lies are backed by all these other guys who are saying, these lies are fine. And what's scary and frustrating to someone like myself and to Irina is like watching this and saying, wow, the more we perpetuate this, the harder and bigger we're going to fall, right? In terms of the public stage and forum and how people view crypto. Because if these are our leaders that are, for example, having a stable coin war, depegging stable coins and causing bank runs, well, then we all look really, really bad, don't we? right? So we really have to kind of self-police. We have to stand up and say, you know, what is the right direction? And I think that there's multiple types of entrepreneurs, but two real major buckets that I would say in crypto. There's the people that came here on the vision and the idealism and really love this idea of a free open internet and digital economies. And there are people that came to basically grift and get as much money as they can for themselves, but they don't care what direction this space takes. They don't care if it blows up in 5 years from now, as long as within that 5 years they can walk out with their millions or whatever. They don't care. And so we need to get rid of that other portion. We need to not let that other portion represent us. And unfortunately, that other portion for the past few years has been representing us, and now it's coming home to roost. And the SBF and the Luna and the Celsius and all that stuff became apparent, and there's more. I hate to break it, but there's more coming. And I think that now is the time before it explodes that we can start to say KYC is good. We can do decentralized identity. We want to work with the banking system. We want to have compliant systems, right? We shouldn't run in the opposite direction, because if we run in the opposite direction and say we're not complying with any of these rules or laws and crypto is here to break all these laws and there's nothing you can do about it, well, we'll find out very quickly that we're going to get a swift, bad regulatory reaction, and we are going to send all the opportunity overseas. And then when it comes back to the US is going to have completely missed the boat on all of this opportunity. And I think it's going to San Francisco from 2020 when COVID hit, it was like decimated. Everyone moved out and went to Florida and Texas and other places. And this would be just kind of like, I don't know, the icing on the cake for something like that. If we don't get this right, then I could see a lot of the tech kind of flowing out. And that what happened with SVB really was, in one way it was a banking failure, but in another way it was a stable coin design that was not really scalable the way that it was set up. And then you have these warring factions fighting over stable coins. And we can't have that. We really can't, if two large stablecoin players, want to duke it out, they shouldn't be duking it out in a public forum. They should find some way to do what's best for the industry. But sadly, this kind of attitude, I think, has really dampened our space. And I hate to be doom and gloom, but I do feel that we have to, crypto has to run into a big wall again, and it's just inevitable. And when it does, I think we're going to get big banks, we're going to get heavy-handed regulation, and I just hope that as an industry, before that heavy-handed regulation comes in, we can speak up and say what we really stand for, and we can really be heard before the explosion happens, so our regulators, policymakers can say, there are good people here, right? And they were saying this long before this thing exploded.
Yeah. Yep. Couldn't have said it better myself. I want to get your opinion on this. Why is Elon Musk putting the Dogecoin logo on Twitter? What is he doing with Dogecoin?
So I'm close to this. I work inside the Dogecoin Foundation on the board and with the Dogecoin team. Doge is an anomaly, right? It was a joke made by Jackson Palmer, Billy Marcus, and Christine Ricks, December 2013. Jackson thought Bitcoin was silly, so he made the dog on the coin, and it took off. It exploded. And Elon he loves memes, right? So we know this. We know he loves memes. He loves memes so much he went out and paid $40 billion for Twitter, right? And Twitter has become, quite the place to be. I think that Elon, I can't speak for him, but I personally think that he's very idealistic about the future. He wants to go to Mars. He wants to have, better news and free speech and things like that. And so Dogecoin is the ultimate joke of money, and money is in a weird spot right now, right? With the way that central banks have kind of managed some of the risk. They're doing the best they can, but we're kind of, built on this system that's struggling. And so Dogecoin is this funny brand, funny meme. It's a life of its own. So you notice it's not just Elon. Domino's, Old Spice, everybody. Domino's just did Dogeminos. It's like a cultural phenomenon, and it's also currency. And he's been talking about it for a while because Bitcoin. I think I like Dogecoin for the same reasons Elon does. Bitcoin's cool, but it's just too, at times it can be too much. It's too, like, sometimes the community can focus too much on maximalism or the financial aspect, when the whole point of crypto, in my opinion, is for people to be able to easily access it, have fun, play around. And what's more fun than a dog on a coin? Also, the inflation schedule is higher. People didn't think that, at 5 billion Doge a year, this would work. It gradually becomes less and less, but it has a really good inflation schedule for the miners, for the way that it's built. And yeah, just an awesome meme. He had been joking about it for a while. He did his SNL thing. He's a fan like I am. I don't know. It's just Doge is a phenomenon. Kabosu, you can't, it's hard to explain in like words why you would do it. It's just fun. And it's also, Dogecoin also just has one of the most viral, amazing communities of all time. It really started on Reddit, and it blew up so quickly that it got the founder at the time, it got Alexis Ohanian, the founder's attention. I did a panel with him in 2014. You can look it up on YouTube, and they're like, this Dogecoin thing is really taking off. It's only a few months old, but at that time it had become such a critical part of Reddit's culture. And now I think it's just part of internet meme culture. It's the money of internet memes. And I think Twitter is going to become a payments app. That's very obvious to me. It's like going to be a super app, payments app. And yeah, it would make sense that Dogecoin would be part of the, if all the memes live on Twitter and this thing's going to become a payments app, well, wouldn't you want the currency of memes? That's what I think he's doing.
I love it. I'm going to get a lot of heat for saying this, but I'm a cat person. If anybody follows me on social media, I post my cat all the time. So I don't know if someone comes up with, I think there is a cat coin, right? But it's not, it's nowhere near like Dogecoin. But anyway.
Yeah,
there's one on
coin.
Proton. One of our followers created one, but we'll stick with Doge for now.
Well, we're starting to get caught up on time, and this has been such an intense, invigorating conversation. To everybody that's at the edge of their seats, I hope you didn't fall down, because I did. But this has been such a pleasure. We might have to do more of these. But Eleanor, it's been such a pleasure having you on. It's been Eleanor Terrett, from the crypto journalist from Fox Business. Once again, Marshall Hayner, the co-founder of Metallicus and CEO of Metallicus, along with CFO and board member Irina Berkon. My name is Eric. It's been such an absolute pleasure. Everybody that's listening on YouTube, you can follow us at We Are Metallicus. And everybody that's on the Twitter Spaces, going over to YouTube. This is going to be live over there. So like, comment, subscribe, do all of it. But in the meantime, it's been such a pleasure having you all today. And we will see you all on the next one. You all have a great rest of your day. Thank you all so much for joining in.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Eleanor. Thanks, Eric. Cheers.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.